publish your book independently step by step. If you know my work, if you've been a fan of the show for a while, if you've been rocking with me for a while, if you've even bought my books, you know how important this topic is. I wanted to end on a strong note before we get back to our normal Wednesday and Sunday programming. I'm going to break down the websites that I use, the links that I use, give as much game as possible that allowed me to set up my publishing imprint, Bring Your Worth, and self-publish. I think I'm at about 13, 14 books that I've self-published, a few of them bestsellers, as I mentioned. I want to give you the sauce. So I'm not going to mess around with this episode. We're going to go and get into it. There's about 4 or 5 questions I get all the time about people doing books. If you want to go ahead and do the traditional book route where you want to be with a Penguin or a Random House, actually they're the same now, but that's how far back I go, but a Penguin or a Random House or a Knopf or whatever, then this will help you. But a lot of the energy of this episode is about how to publish it independently, to do it outside of the traditional publishing system where you need an agent. Shout out to the agents that I've worked with and that I currently work with. There's nothing wrong with agents. And there's nothing wrong with the traditional publishers. But the focus of this is on doing it independently as I have. And as Prince said, and other people have said, if you do it independently, there's more risk, but you also get a lion's share of the profit. So let's get started with the first question. If you have any questions as far as going independent, throw them in the chat. Otherwise, we got a lot of questions in here already. All right. So the first question is, how do I know if I should publish a book? This is a really common question. Don't feel bad if you have an idea and you're not sure if it's quote unquote good or not. Most ideas are good. I'll put it out there. Good as in definition of there's probably someone that wants to read it. If you want to read it, out of the, I think it's 8 billion people in the world, chances are there's one other person who's going to read it. I'm not sure if you'll be able to access that person or those people. Whole nother discussion. That's called having a platform and actually being able to reach the people that you say the book is for. My whole point is that there's probably a story that you have to tell that only you know. My late grandmother, who is you see in the picture right above my head, quite literally she's above me. Shout out to her. She had so many adventures when she was living in the country, and she was raised on the outskirts of Pittsburgh, which is extremely rural, particularly at that time. And of course, I'm originally from South Jersey, so she migrated to New Jersey, Camden. Shout out to Camden, when I wasn't even born yet, and I don't think my mom was even born yet when she came over to Camden. Amazing stories. That might be the story to tell. She told us those stories eventually when she got older, but that's a story to tell. Like just the adventures of being a very young African-American woman moving to the big city after being in rural Pennsylvania. That sounds like an adventure to me. I listened to it when I was my kid's age, when I was much younger, listening to these stories that I heard over time, and they sound like adventures to me. You might have that particular story. Or you might be coming from a standpoint of more my energy, where you have a particular skill set that you want to share in a book, more instructive. I've done 2 startups and I sold the second one. Most people do not sell their startups. So I have a unique viewpoint that I can say, this is a skill set. One of the reasons why I have the TV show. So from all the people that I've talked to, when you usually are going to write a book, it's about telling a unique story, often your own, or you're being instructive and helping guide people on their particular way. The real question is, does your particular idea for a book merit 50,000 words? That's really what it comes down to. It's not if your book is worthwhile or not. Does it merit 50,000 words minimum? In fact, some of my books are actually about 30 or 40,000 words. That's a lot of words. I was just talking to a client about it recently, where when you have a particular idea, particularly if you're planning on writing, the question doesn't become if it's a good idea or not, because you can kind of figure that out if someone's interested in it, or if you're really interested in it and you need to get it out. The question becomes, is it an article, as in something that's a few hundred words to a few thousand words? Is it a magazine article, which tends to be a lot longer, like 5,000 words? Or is it a book, which takes a couple years to write usually and get out, and it's 50,000 words? Some ideas work, in this case, well as a Bring Your Worst show, and other ideas work really well as a book. Some of these things cannot be captured in a 45-minute episode or even a 2-hour episode. It requires that time to simmer. So if you want to know if your idea is worthwhile, you really have to ask yourself, does it merit all that time and effort to get it into book form? That's really the big question. Particularly if you're not a professional writer, 50,000 words, even for pros like myself, takes a while. So sometimes it's like, you know what, this actually would work really well as an essay. Some things actually work really well as a social media post. There's big ideas I've had, and I'm like, oh, that's a tweet. That's 240 characters. I'm just gonna put it out. And it worked fine. And other things, I'm like, no, this book will come out next year. And then I plan based on that. Let me know if you're trying to work through, if you feel like your idea is worth pursuing or what blocks you might be having. Feel free to throw those comments, those questions in the comments. I'm like Dr. Seuss today, everything's backwards. All right. All right. Again, you're watching the Bring Your Worst show. Coming to you every month, every Wednesday. I don't even know the day. Wednesday and Sunday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. I'm your host, Damon Brown. Host, proprietor, founder, and all those good things.